I have flipped the English League pyramid so the stars of the Premier League are now found in the Vanarama National League, with the 20 lowest reputation clubs from there now enjoying life in the Prem, with 4 unfortunate sides put in the Championship. And that's because one of the leagues has 20 teams and the other has 24, but that's just difficult maths. But there's more, and most of all the Championship sides are now in League 2, other than Leicester, Southampton, Leeds and Watford, who are also in the 24 sides in the National League. And why this video is so interesting is because of the promotion situation in the Vanarama National League. Only one side goes up automatically each season, while there's a playoff for a second spot, meaning it would take a minimum of 10 seasons for all 20 Premier League sides to get promoted out of the Vanarama National League, and that will end up destroying some massive clubs and damaging their reputation, because by then their finances could be in the gutter and all their best players have been sold. And if you don't want me to target your team and ruin them in a Football Manager video, I suggest you subscribe right now. So after simulating one season, it's AFC Fylde who have won the Premier League and will be joined by Gateshead, Aldershot, Southend and Solihull Moors in the Champions League next season. What's also nice to see is their overall balance going from 0 in July of 2023 when they started to £120 million just in one season. AFC Wimbledon going up to the Premier League next year as champions, which is nice in the Championship. In League 1, of which of course stayed the same, it's Derby going up as champions, and from League 2, Norwich, Hull, Ipswich and Stoke are all promoted. But here comes the interesting part, the Premier League sides in the Vanarama National League. Manchester City go up as champions with 108 points, and although Newcastle and Manchester United finished 2nd and 3rd, it's Liverpool who are promoted thanks to beating Newcastle in the playoffs on penalties. Tottenham have also qualified for the Europa League next season, and that's because they won the FA Cup, beating Chelsea in the final, as well as Aston Villa, who also won a competition as they won the Europa Conference League. What's also quite intriguing in the Vanarama National League is the attendances, with Manchester United having the highest average attendance, but Manchester City getting the most stadium sellouts. Luton Town, however, recorded the lowest average attendance with less than 8,000. However, in the Premier League, Southend recorded a lower average attendance than Luton despite being the highest in the league. Only 2 clubs recorded 1 stadium sellout across the whole season, and the lowest attendance was Oxford City, with just over 500 people. Many players decided to desert the Vanarama National League, opting to move clubs across Europe. However, there were still some occasions where players moved to these Vanarama National League sides simply because of how high their reputation still is. Man City were also so close to becoming the first ever to win the Champions League from a non-league division after losing in the final against PSG. Manager movements didn't include too many shocks, with the usual culprits being moved on. But this is all just after one season. I've actually gone 50 years into the future to see how much this can damage and impact some of the massive clubs in English football. In the second season, maybe quite surprisingly, it's the 3 newly promoted sides in the Premier League that finished 1st, 2nd and 3rd, with Colchester winning this time round. I also noticed that the wonder kid Archie Gray was part of this Colchester team after they purchased him from Leeds for £8.5 million. And Southend, who finished in 4th last season, this year found themselves relegated from the Premier League, despite playing in the Champions League. What isn't surprising is that the 5 teams in the Champions League from England finished in the bottom 6, with only Shakhtar finishing below one of them. And that's because Gateshead beat Solihull Moors. Aldershot also managed to pick up a draw against Shakhtar, while Fylde and Southend drew a game against each other. It's no surprise that a newly promoted team was also promoted from the Championship in Derby. So I'll be interested in keeping an eye to see if they win the Premier League next year. Speaking of which, the former Premier League sides Manchester City and Liverpool also achieved promotions, with Man City not even losing a single game. Pep Guardiola is still in charge, but they actually sold £261 million worth of players, including Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden, while only bringing in 3 Spurs fringe players from the league below. Out of their current squad, Kevin De Bruyne is also leaving, and the big hitters like Erling Haaland are also wanted by big European clubs. Liverpool are in a similar scenario, selling a few players like Darwin Núñez and Virgil van Dijk, as well as Alexis McAllister for just £8 million, while bringing in players from clubs yet to lead the Vanarama National League. Although Arsenal and Spurs are both promoted in the second season and can now start the recovery of their club status, while the likes of Chelsea and Manchester United still suffer for another season, and the 4 clubs who came up go right back down. Surprisingly, only a couple of transfers out of these clubs like Bukayo Saka and Romelu Lukaku, as most of the clubs have been able to keep hold of the top stars for now. The following season was even more shocking as Everton managed to gain promotion alongside Newcastle, so 3 seasons down and Chelsea and Manchester United are still yet to gain promotion. With the transfers this season showing that clubs that have already gained promotion still have reputation to now buy players stuck in this league. The biggest surprise for me in the 3rd season is Altrincham winning the Premier League. They're not the newly promoted team from the leagues below. No, they've been in the Premier League the last 2 seasons. They were a Vanarama national team. So they've stayed in 6th place and 9th place the last 2 seasons, where we thought we'd see a decline in the teams that were starting in the Premier League because of course they were originally Vanarama National League teams. But no, they've actually gone on and won it. And they've done really well to do so. They signed Troy Parrott this year, who got 25 Premier League goals. And actually, they didn't sign anybody amazing. They've just been really clever with their money. Troy Parrott, for instance, was a free transfer. Anthony Elanga was the player that they spent the most money on, as well as Sulemana. So they've done really well in recruiting well to stop the newly promoted teams such as Derby County, who were leagues above them a couple of years ago, from coming up and just dominating the Premier League. This was also the first year that significant money was spent by the clubs in the Premier League on transfers since the leagues have been flipped, with £25 million up to 32 being the most this season. As you can see, there's a couple around the 20 mark and a lot around the 15. In years previously, we can see it's not even in double figures here, and even before that, it's not even £2 million in the first season. So maybe now these clubs that are in the Premier League are really feeling the full effect of managing to stay there. The likes of Mansfield Town, who are currently playing at the Wayne Rooney Arena. I don't know why, but their finances seem to be lovely. Like £90 million in the bank, £84 million in the transfer budget, and they're actually signing some fantastic players like Amad Diallo from Manchester United, who still can't get out the Vanarama National League. I don't know how long it's going to last, because even in the Sky Bet Championship now, we've got Norwich, Hull City and Gillingham popping up into the Premier League, so Norwich being a massive club really in consideration to some of the clubs that are in there, especially even Altrincham, who won the Premier League. That's going to cause a big effect now, and really they've only got another season before Man City and Liverpool reach the Premier League again after getting promoted into the Championship. And you like to think Man City is just going to steamroll all the way through. Liverpool only lost 2 games. One of them was against Manchester City. In League 2, Arsenal managed to win that with Tottenham. So again, in a few years' time, all the Premier League clubs that got promoted early are going to manage to get to the top. It's all about the clubs who are surviving in the Premier League, trying to get their head start as far ahead as possible before they return. But in Season 4, I think it showed that they just didn't do enough. Although Manchester United finally got themselves promoted with Brighton as champions, there are still 12 ex-Premier League sides in non-league. But huge transfers happen, with the likes of Evan Ferguson leaving to Solihull Moors for nearly $50 million, Lisandro Martinez to Arsenal, and even movement between the clubs in the same league, as Bruno Fernandes and Jared Branthwaite both went to Brighton. And this time it's Liverpool who finish unbeaten, this time in the Championship, with City finishing in 2nd place, getting back to the Premier League in the shortest amount of time possible. Although they did spend £101 million and did also buy Julian Alvarez off of Manchester City in the process. And they lost Erling Haaland, who moved to PSG for over £120 million. In the Premier League, my prediction was correct, as Norwich lifted the trophy and Altrincham dropped down to 7th place, as more national sides dropped out of the league. Solihull Moors finishing 16th, and that was even after spending £120 million. 2028 is the 5th season, and it's the first season Liverpool and Man City are back in the Premier League, and Liverpool have won it, with Man City finishing just 4 points behind in 2nd place. Blackpool and Norwich are the 2 teams that are straggling on to the other 2 European spots, which just goes to show the long-term effects this is already having in such a short term on the English football in general. Not enough coefficient points in Europe are being held, so these clubs are suffering in terms of qualification. We can already see there are a few clubs that are still gripping on to that Premier League football. Altrincham, of course, won the Premier League a couple of years ago. They're down in 13th place here. Solihull Moors, we've already highlighted, 38 points. They're still doing all right as well. I wonder, in the long term, when we look, how long they can last, because there's other Premier League clubs that are going to be on their way up. Now, transfer-wise, in this last season or so, it's been dominated mainly by Manchester City. They have signed a lot of players, as you can see here, and they haven't actually won the Premier League, which does surprise me a bit. They signed Erdegaard there. They got Victor Boniface. They've signed a new gen from Rennes, who's quite good too. Zeno de Bas has gone to Liverpool for £44 million. But we can also see some of the Vanarama National League teams have also signed big players. Altrincham here spending £49 million on Arakovic, which is quite a big deal. Also Jared Bowen, who's quite old actually, and they still sign him for a fair amount of money. Reece James and Aaron Hickey both go into Liverpool after leaving to Fenerbahce and Bologna. So they've come back to the Premier League once Liverpool have managed to get into the Premier League. So we can already see there's kind of an after effect happening straight away. It's just how different this will be in about 5 years' time. What are the long-term effects of this happening with the leagues being flipped? If we take a look at the club details of Liverpool, their reputation is at 8,294. Now, it starts off in the 9,000, so it has dropped off slightly, and it's the same for Manchester City in their club details, 8,480. But it's not the case when you look at the Vanarama National League of clubs that are there still. Now, Chelsea finally got themselves out alongside Fulham. But one team that has surprised that hasn't come up yet is Aston Villa. They are a fairly good team, and sometimes in the Premier League in the first season, they actually get a good European finish. They're down in 5,045 reputation, which is really low considering that they start off 8,000 roughly. So that suffered quite a lot. What is also quite surprising is Sheffield United, this is the first time that this has happened, are the first team to be relegated with other Vanarama National League teams in the league. And the likes of Eastleigh have managed to survive there in 13th place. We've got Scunthorpe and Oldham Athletic finishing above not only Luton, but of course Sheffield United, who are relegated into the Vanarama National League North. So they're already having some long-term effects on Sheffield United, who have just completely dropped out of the Vanarama National League now. Don't look like they would even get promoted even if they tried next year. So 2,898, they're going to struggle really badly to get out of this league because they've already got to get promoted from the league below now. And we're going to kind of see the other teams kind of make their way up through. If you're able to escape the Vanarama National League, you're kind of safe in the medium-term range, but you're still going to have some kind of effect. And I think that's quite interesting. Everton here, not getting promoted after back-to-back promotions in Sky Bet League 1, with Newcastle and Sunderland going up with Blackburn. Already, there's some trouble brewing there. Tottenham and Arsenal are going to be joining Manchester City and Liverpool in the Premier League. But I think it's time we have a look at the long-term effects now. I've already said Rasmus Højlund's moved to Spurs. Even though Manchester United did get promoted last year, he moved. Now he's playing Premier League football. It's probably a smart move. I'm a little bit offended, Rasmus, that you've joined my dad's team. But let's have a look at the long-term effects. I'm going to go about 5 years into the future and find out. So I've gone 5 years. I'm kind of shocked at what I'm seeing. Now, Manchester City are still the Premier League winners, as I expected. They are still up and around there with Liverpool as well. They were the first ones to get up there. So, yeah, as we would really expect. But there are way more Vanarama National League teams in and around the Premier League than I expected, and there's some big names that aren't in it yet. Like, where's my Manchester United team? Where's Chelsea? This is 5 years from now. They should have managed to get into the Premier League by now. And look how many, York City are 7th. They have a guy called Chris Tipple, who is the top scorer. He is unbelievable. He's one of the best strikers in the world. And they bought him from Fulham for $7 million. This is incredible that they've managed to survive, and the long-term effects are probably York City managing to stick around and become one of a big Premier League side from now on. Their reputation is quite laughable, really. It's still just above Aston Villa's when we looked at it 5 seasons ago in the Vanarama National League. But still, they're there, 7th in the Premier League. And look how many European spots there are now. Now, the Premier League have actually climbed back up from 4th to 3rd in the competition reputation, which is not bad. You kind of expect them to kind of plateau at some point and drive back up. But yeah, there's some interesting aspects in terms of the teams in the Premier League. Of course, Altrincham no longer there. We'll have to see how far they dropped because they were a Premier League winner. And we've got the likes of Fylde, who were also a Premier League... Am I right in saying they were the Premier League winner as well? That they've managed to hold on for a while and keep up appearances in the Premier League. This is good stuff. Now, transfer-wise, you can see they are still spending... Well, they are now spending a lot of money compared to what they were previously. And Newcastle, who have managed to actually climb up, have done really well. I mean, Newcastle's ascent was quite good, considering that they missed out 2 years in a row. Second place, sixth place. They were promoted as first in the third season, and then they continued. And they've been up there for like the last 3 years. So they've done all right, and they've spent a lot of money. But I'm really shocked at Manchester United. Where are the likes of Manchester United? I guess we'll find out. Now, Altrincham, they're going back up. They've just become champions of the Championship. They're back up, former Premier League winners. That's great to see. Now, we can see Chelsea and Solihull Moors. That's another team that we highlighted quite briefly because they bought a lot of Brighton's players who have just finished above them, which is cool there. So, yeah, we got Blackburn, Gateshead going up back into the Premier League. Crewe, Grimsby and Bristol City going down. Wealdstone there, or Wealdstone. League One, Manchester United are in League One. I'm quite shocked by that. Now, Woking have got promoted and Manchester United haven't. Ruud van Nistelrooy is the manager, which is unbelievable, considering how far they've gone down. 5,000. 5,000. That's mental, really, when you consider how big Manchester United are as a club in real life. Obviously, despite them being terrible lately, they still are worldwide a very famous club. But look, back-to-back promotions and then never anymore. Stayed in League One. The long-term effects that this could have on Manchester United already showing after 10 years. 10 years. And that's it. They're done. We've got Leicester and Wrexham still in the same league there. So there's some... I mean, Villa's come up. They've gone back down. So they're not having a great time either. So we're in Sky Bet League One. Are there any stragglers now? West Ham missing out in the playoffs there, despite Maidenhead United being the winners. Sheffield Wednesday also going up as the playoff champions there. So some big clubs missing out, including West Ham. So that's interesting as well. But there's no other Premier League sides in there. What about the Vanarama National League? We know that it would take 12 years for all of them to get out. And that's without obviously having any problems. There's bound to be some in here. Bournemouth being one of them straight away off the bat. There's more, but they seem to be doing terribly. Burnley's down there in 19th place, just scraping. I mean, Morecambe going up, Northampton going up, but there's some bigger clubs that you would consider in the present day really are struggling. In the Vanarama National League North, Sheffield United lost in the playoff final. They're still down there. Is there any other clubs that we would not expect to see this far down? Not right now, but maybe even in the south side of it, there could be. Luton Town. Luton Town are one of the clubs down there. Other than that, I think we're okay. All right, let's go a little bit further ahead then and see. Oh, actually, let's take a look at the Champions League. What happened in the Champions League for us to manage to gain enough time or enough positions back? Did one of the English clubs win it? No, but Man City were finishing runners-up 3 seasons ago. Real Madrid have been very unlucky. By the looks of this, they finished runners-up 5 times, 6 times in the last 10 years without winning it once. But I guess they have won it the most. So they haven't done too much. I guess they've just gone quite far in the competition and managed to regain the coefficient points quite nicely. All right, let's go even further into the future now. I've gone another 10 years, and this is a very strange Premier League table. Arsenal are champions. We've got Portsmouth finishing in 2nd place, which is very good, actually, considering where they started. They started in League One where they would have started normally, and they've managed to establish themselves as a title contender, just 2 points behind, which is very interesting. Have they actually managed to win it? Could that be a possibility? They've won 4 Premier Leagues. They have. They won the last 2. Fair play. I mean, it's been nearly 50 years, or 100 years, sorry, since they won it previously, but they managed to win 2 in a row. So really good from Portsmouth. They've really capitalised on the Premier League clubs being flipped upside down into Vanarama National League. Man City and Liverpool are still holding on. So are Norwich, Tottenham there too, Everton, Newcastle. But outside of that, it's only Chelsea who are really struggling to establish themselves as like back into the top half of the Premier League, kind of like where they are now. Ow. The rest of the teams are kind of a mix. Like AFC Wimbledon's like League 2, Hull City in the Championship, York, of course, in the Vanarama National League, same as Fylde. So there's some clubs in and around there that you wouldn't really expect to be there still holding on. And it's great, to be fair. Bromley being relegated on 19 points. Maybe they're kind of like a bit of a yo-yo and they've just done well for a year. But yeah, let's have a look down the leagues. Still no Manchester United, which I kind of shocked a little bit. But after seeing how bad they were the 3 seasons after, maybe not so much. There's Altrincham. They've done quite well. Altrincham finishing in 12th place in the Championship. They're holding on. They're establishing themselves as a Championship side now. Did they ever go back up? I'm quite curious to see whether they ever did go back. They did. They have a few times, actually. They've gone back up and only just come back down, actually. So there we go. They've done all right. The one-time Premier League winner. But Wolves are down there. We've actually had some deductive points to Stoke and Southampton. Stoke being relegated on 28 points there, which actually would have... they would have been relegated anyway. But Southampton surviving despite their administration points. Brighton in 11th place there, so they kind of stayed around the Championship area. In League 1, Manchester United are finally going into the Championship, so competitions, they've been there ever since. I can't believe that. That's mental. How much has it affected their reputation? 4,800. This is the first time they've gone into the second tier after the whole experiment started, which I find that mental, really. So going up with Barnsley and Millwall, so that's quite cool. Plymouth are still there. West Ham down in 15th place. Bournemouth being relegated. They were a straggler, as it was, compared to the rest of them. They're only in the lower division, so Sky Bet League 2 now. We've got Northampton going at Swansea, Watford, Chesterfield. Burnley are there. Nottingham Forest are there. Leeds never really recovered. I think Leeds would have started in the Vanarama National League because they were a higher reputation Championship side. So they've only gone up one division there. But no other team. So it's kind of where Luton and Sheffield United lay. Aston Villa as well. I forgot about them. Aston Villa just been promoted back into the Football League. Oh my god, they were actually relegated. They went into the Vanarama National League North. Aston Villa. They got up to League 2, went up to League 1, and then plummeted back down and fell back completely. This is a former Champions League winner, European Cup winner, but they've hammered it. They've absolutely hammered. 3,621 they've fallen, but they finally got back into, the Football League, I guess, after 20 years. Sheffield United in 5th place there. Solihull Moors, it's a shame to see them drop all the way down because they were signing some big players, and it's kind of cost them, really. I mean, their finances are quite interesting. They still got 4 million in the bank there, but one time they were spending some serious money. They bought Evan Ferguson. So I'm quite surprised by that. Luton are also there in 16th place. But I don't think we're going to see any in the Vanarama National League North. Because I've got a feeling we've kind of passed every single one of the actual Premier League sides. Yeah, we have. Unless I've really missed one. And they've dropped off completely. QPR are just being promoted there. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Alright, so let's have a look then at the Champions League. And just see whether any of the English clubs have won it ever since. Man City, which I kind of expected, Liverpool, Barcelona, absolutely dominated. 7 Champions League in 8 years, and a lot of them was against Real Madrid, which is mental. So only 2 winners of the English leagues, which was Liverpool and Manchester City. Annoyingly, I kind of like to have seen like a Portsmouth win it. That would have been kind of cool. But that's kind of the effects after 20 years. What about if we go the full 50? Okay, so we're 50 years into the future now. How much has this experiment completely transformed English football? Well, Man City are champions. So that is underwhelming in some regards. But it doesn't tell the full story, I don't think, because York City are second. Runners up, they're 10 points behind. They've done well. They've established themselves as a Premier League side, and they've actually continued and became a Champions League team. Fylde are there as well, which is great to see, really, considering, they actually won the very first Premier League in this experiment. Okay, they were only against the Vanarama National League teams, but they stayed there, they stuck around, and in that time, they've won 2 Europa Leagues, they've won a Europa Conference League, they've even gone down to the Championship and come back up. So I think they've done really well. AFC Fylde, I think that's a fantastic achievement, and they've managed to establish it. I mean, their reputation is 8,400. This has established a new team. This is great. Their key player is Japanese, and he's unbelievable. This is fantastic. So that's great. York City are obviously managed to do very similar stuff, but Tottenham are still there. Liverpool, Arsenal, they're all still there. But there's a lot of Premier League sides who aren't there. So past winners of the Premier League, yes, it's been dominated by normal Premier League sides right now, and that is boring. York have actually finished second on multiple occasions. They've never been able to do the big one and win it, unfortunately. Tottenham went for a stage where they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row in the Premier League, which must have been amazing for my dad. So that's great for them. I mean, Portsmouth actually won a few. I think Portsmouth are the only team after the Premier League sides came back up that managed to pinch a Premier League that wasn't starting in the Premier League, which has kind of surprised me in a way. I thought there would be a little bit more of a change, and I didn't expect this amount of Premier League sides back in the Premier League. I thought there'd be a lot more. Chelsea are still there. They're 14th. They must have won like a cup because they are Europa League qualification candidates. Well, they've actually qualified for that this season. So in the Sky Bet Champion... Oh, actually before, reputation, they're back as number 1. So back as the best league in the world, the Premier League. Aston Villa are into the Premier League. Now, please tell me that's the first time that's happened. No, they've been back in the Premier League once. Came up, back in the Premier League for the second time. 2 seasons later, back down. Well, 3 seasons later, back down. Oh, that's quite cool, though, that they've managed to recover and they're back in it again. Because as much as, it is fun to see that, I don't want to see this just completely destroy certain clubs. I like redemption. And that is definitely redemption, considering they were still in non-league football after a fair amount of time after. Manchester United are in the Premier League too. Did they manage to do it? Is this the first time that they... Oh, no. So they've gone up and down a few times, to be fair. Oh, they're a yo-yo club. They're a yo-yo team now. 6,900. That has increased. So that's not too bad. I don't feel so bad for my club now after doing that. Doesn't look like they've won any other competitions since. So, yeah, okay. Maybe that they can, they can push on from that. Altrincham are still there as well. West Ham finally getting promoted into the Premier League. Is that for the first time for them? That is. That, unless it's way back. But still, there we go. West Ham back in the Premier League. Sheffield United there as well. We are seeing a fair amount of redemption marks here. Now, Maidenhead United are relegated. We know that they've held on quite well after seeing some of the previous ones. Burnley champions of Sky Bet League 1. There's some clubs that I suspect have been in the same league all that time. Kind of like what Preston are in the Championship in real life. Because I guess they're just never a good enough reputation to manage to attract enough good players, really. But going down, we're in Sky Bet League 2. Bournemouth are there in 12th. That's the lowest so far of a Premier League side. Brighton, 21st in Sky Bet League 2. So unless there is a club in the Vanarama National League or South, it might be Luton. I haven't seen a Luton yet. Solihull Moor's still in there. That's a shame, isn't it? That is a shame. Can't see any Premier League sides there. Oh, Forest. Forest are in the Vanarama National League. Wow. Vanarama National League North. Nobody in there. Not that I can see. You're all going to be in the comments going, you missed so-and-so. And I'm so sorry. But, hey, my eyesight is not as great as what it used to be. I imagine Luton is down here, though. Where is Luton? Unless they've gone even worse. Surely not. Because I'm pretty sure I have not come across Luton Town. They're in Sky Bet League 1. So that means Nottingham Forest is the lowest club after 50 years. I didn't expect that at all. Alright, fair enough. So that's Champions League then. Has there been any English winners outside of the ones that we kind of expect? There's Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. Not really. Tottenham, maybe. Maybe you could say Tottenham because they're not Champions League winning material, are they? Let's be fair. They actually won it 3 in a row as well. Everton, Portsmouth! Portsmouth have done it. Come on. Everton and Portsmouth. I'll take a Portsmouth. That's very good. That's very good indeed. They beat Manchester City in the final in 2047 at the Bernabeu. That's great. Okay, Nantes have won it. That's quite an interesting team there to win. But let's have a look at like Europa League and stuff like that. The European Championship might be quite interesting to have a look as well to see whether it's really affected any of the international sides. I don't think it will. Hull City being a winner though, that's quite interesting. Here we go. This is where they all are at. They're maybe not winning the Champions League, but they're getting the secondary ones. Hull City, Mansfield, Fylde again. Hull City, Portsmouth, Cardiff, Portsmouth again, York. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them, and that's fantastic. Who was the first out of like Hull City there in 2032? Is probably, yeah, 2032 Hull City being the first one out of the clubs you wouldn't expect to win a European competition for the Europa League. That's an interesting one. So Europa Conference League, I mean, really, nobody really wants this trophy, is it? It's still a European trophy, I guess. But the current winners, Man City won it last season, which is quite funny actually. Hull is there again, quite a few times actually, same as York and Cardiff. We've got Portsmouth who've managed to do all of it. Colchester, there we go. Colchester's done it. Norwich filed again. But the first one, let's find the first one. Salernitana's got an interesting one that they've managed to do that. I think it was Hull again. Hull City doing that, or Villa. But obviously they were in the Vanarama National League at that point. I think it is Hull City in 2030 who've managed to do that. So, well, fair play. That's really good. So, World Cup and European Championships. World Cup is held by Belgium right now, Spain. So, England have recovered, and they have recovered quite well. And the reason why I say they're recovered is international football can be affected if the highest reputation clubs are sent down to the bottom. Because they have the best national, the best youth systems, wouldn't they? And the best training facilities. And if they're not playing at the highest level, then the players aren't going to develop as well. But it didn't seem like it affected it too much, because in 2038 they won 3 World Cups in a row. But that's obviously when a lot of the clubs managed to get back to the top. So I don't think it really affected it too much, if I'm honest. Maybe not as much as I expected it to. Ireland won it in 2056, the European Championships, which is nice. Same as Scotland in 2044. So the whole nation's doing quite well. But there we go. But that, my friends, is how flipping the English leagues can affect English football and all the big clubs in England. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this persuades you to subscribe if you haven't done so already. I really enjoy doing these experiment types of videos, and if this video does well, I'll continue to drop more experiments like this. Maybe you've got a suggestion that you can think of and pop it down in the comments. Don't forget, I've also got the wrestling events coming up in the future. The Electric Boogaloo is happening at the end of this month. I am wrestling Ripper Reed and Benjamin Stone in a tag team contest, and we're trying to raise money for Jeremiah's Journey. At the top of the description, I'll leave a link for buying tickets. If you'd like to come to Plymouth and watch me wrestle in person, you get to meet Dad as well. Or you can just simply donate to Jeremiah's Journey on behalf of the TCW charity event. We're trying to raise as much money as physically possible. We raised £1,000 last time, thanks to you guys contributing on YouTube. If we can get anywhere close to that for Jeremiah's Journey, I'll be eternally grateful. Thank you very much for watching. Why not check out this video? Because I stuck Lionel Messi at the worst team in the Vanarama National League, and he actually did really well. Let's find out what happens.